Welcome learners. In the last session, we got that data which we want to tailor and put it into the app. However, in this particular video, I'm going to show you step-by-step procedure of how we can actually use that data and create our own custom list. In fact, you can try to put your imagination and tweak the behavior so that you can match it along with your user experience. Well, every company perhaps would be using this kind of a technique to create their own list items and design an app which looks appealing into your eyes. We're not yet there to make the app appealing into your eyes, but surely we are taking a stepping stone in that direction. Find out in the video why I say so. Let's dive into the session wherein I'm going to stick to this entire design that will be getting displayed on the Flutter app. So this is page 3, which presently is stateless widget. However, when it comes to the page 1, this list was been available at the beginning. That is, we had this entire list which was hard coded in the widget only. Unlike that, this page 3, we are going to get that entire list on the init. Well, what's init? Init is one particular state in the stateful widget which can help you initialize something. Well, in our case, what I'm going to try and do is move to the very top, class page 3 extends a stateful widget. Now, this page 3 state is going to be extending the state, and over here I'll say page 3. Let me make this as a private class. Then I'm going to put the return statement for my page 3 state. Well, the entire purpose now boils down to this init state. Well, init state, what I'm going to try and do, this list of product data model is presently been empty. Now what do I mean by that? Look at the list which is in page 1. It has all the items that we want to show onto the app. Hence, you'll notice once I'll open my visor and then click on the share button, then you'll notice that the page 1 has actually got the data which it would rather need onto display. The same applies to page 2. It has all the data which it wants to display on the entire screen. However, in page 3, we have to get the data. Now, let me just take the import for this, and then what I'll try and do is the product list I am going to get from this particular class by calling my function getProductList, which basically in the last session we entirely wrote our code for creating this list and followed by the return, and hence in that sense you're going to notice that my entire widget, which is going to be my list view, is going to show up these items. So for testing, what I'll try and do is try to load the images which we had added. So I'll put over here build context int index. Now coming to the list view builder, these are the two parameters which surely need when you're trying to compose the list view on runtime. Well, now you precisely know and you understand how the list view builder will get attached to the widget tree because of the context. Next, I'm going to put the item count, and this in fact would represent the entire length that we have into our list. So over here, what I'm going to do is one by one, I'll pick the current data or current product model. Well, how do I get one by one? Let me just show it to you. So here's my list. I'll put over here that according to the index, give me the data. Now, what I'll try and do is in my print statement, I'll try to print current product model, and then in the return I'll say image.network current product model dot image URL. Now what I'll try and do is do a hot restart and show the app functioning from the very beginning. As I see my app to get loaded, I'm going to click on Start Page Views, move to the page 3, and then I slowly see the entire images to get loaded, that too in the fashion which we had added. The laptop image, followed by the sandals image, followed by the accessories image, so on and so forth. Let me just try and see over here how many times do I get the current product model. What I'll try and do, inside this I'll put just one particular index. Upon hot reload, do you notice it says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4? Well, that's exactly the total number of items that we had added. This goes on to the index number 0, 1, 2, 3, followed by 4, and hence this gets printed on the output window. However, when it comes to picking the items from the list, we have received it in this particular variable, and now let me just show it to you how this is particular class which saves all these 4 variables. I can use something called as a toString. In override, I'll take this toString. In fact, I can give you a shortcut. I'll take this toString, select all the variables, and data saved equals, let me this time, instead of printing the index, just print current product model. If I now do a hot reload, you will notice that the entire product data model, including the spelling mistake which I did, got saved, okay, including the spelling mistake which I had did, is being printed on my console window. Well, what will happen if I try to remove this and do a hot reload? You're going to see instance of product model. Well, that's because these variables are in fact instance of product data model, and it does not understand what to do inside toString. When we provide override toString, we basically say that when someone is trying to do toString, you have to print these particular variables, and that too in the same order which we have been given. Let's say if you don't want to print image URL because that's going to be kind of very long text, You can try customizing it and you'll notice the output does not show the image URLs. Now, because the image part was successful, let me just try and customize this entire screen to the one which we had imagined. That's something like of this sort. So let me just add product data item widget. So this class product data item widget would extend the stateless widget and then I'll say return. Now look over here. First I have got a card, so I'll put return card, followed by I'm going to load this image in the circular cropped manner. So I'll say a row will have children and a circle avatar that will display the image from my network. So how will it get the image? Now look over here. We all know this product data model has all the data that we need in order to create this particular item. So why not make this available here? So I'll put product data model current product and then create a constructor variable or constructor function that will make this as mandatory. Next, what I'll do is inside the network image, I'll say that I want to load the image URL. Well, what is network image? This is one of the widgets that basically can load the entire image right into my circle avatar. So this time, rather than dumping the code for my entire widget here, I'm going to erase this and put product data item widget and I'll put the current data or current product model. Now let me put a semicolon here, do a hot reload and try to see what changes does that thing do. Well, did you notice all the images got squeezed to the left side and now you can basically kind of make out that this could be the image. In order to solve this problem, I am going to set the min radius to, let's say, 75. Yeah, so this basically increases the size of the image, but I'm not kind of satisfied. That's because if I now set the card color, so let's say I set the background color to light green, you'll notice that this circle avatar is basically sticking to the left and the top as well as the bottom edge. Hence, what I am going to try and do is wrap this row in a padding, and that padding should ensure that in all the directions I will be having a minimum 10 pixels spacing. Now upon hot reload, what do you notice? It no longer sticks to the edges. Now I can try playing along with the design. So look over here. Next, I'm going to have a product title and a subtitle. They're one below the another, and as you might have already guessed it, So I'll put, let me start with my text for the product title. I'll say current product and the title. So I'll put the style as, let's say 24, and even the font weight to be a bit bold. Now when I do a hot reload, what you notice is this particular thing shows up. However, in the first case, because the image had a bigger product title, it's now going beyond the screen. So in this case, what I could try and do is wrap this in an expanded. Now upon hot reload, you'll notice that if it is being exceeding the size, it would just drop to the new line. Now, since you have understood that expanded is actually working good with product title, let me now have one more expanded, but in a column. So here's my column. So I'll say one expanded which displays the product title. What do you notice? It just got a widget crash. That's because over here I did not give the main axis size to be minimum. The second reason is expanded would keep on expanding, and then there's something called as a flex. What's a flex? I want to distribute this particular thing as, let's say this would occupy 50% of my entire card size, and then the rest 50% actually shows the product details. So here we go. Inside the column, yet another expanded. This time the text would show the product subtitle, and what I'll try and do is set the color to colors dot white and the font size a bit smaller, that is 12. Let me now try doing a hot reload. I forgot to put the flex here, and then let me now the moment we do this both to be expanded, then you'll start noticing crashes onto your console window. Well, in fact, my entire phone screen has got blank. Well, what exactly is the reason? Now let me explain you how expanded would work. Let's say when we are trying to have this particular card, imagine setting the expanded would make this to 50%, wherein 50% is dedicated to load this image, and followed by the next 50% wherein we want the product title to be getting loaded. However, what is happening is the subtitle, this being a long text, it's actually pushing on the right side. Hence, the widget now is kind of screaming help, as it is unable to understand that it has got an incoming height which is unbounded. Well, what I'm now going to show to you is, let's say you fall into this trap. Let me just take you out of this particular trap. Now, what I'm going to keep unchanged is the 50% space which I want to allocate to my circle avatar. So this I'll put with a flex of 1. Next, I'll cut this in another expanded. I'll put the entire column which had product title and their subtitle, and this I'll mark it with a flex of 1. So this 50-50 bifurcation is now completed. More upon. Here I'm going to introduce to you to the concept of flexible. Now what I'll try and do is over here with the flexible, I'll try to do a hot reload and then see if still I get this particular error. Yes, I do. Then what I'll try and do is remove the expanded from my columns and just keep it the way it is. And this time you notice that it kind of loads according to what we had imagined. In fact, let me try doing a hot restart to figure it out whether if there is any kind of a widget rendering issue which I fall into. Let me just swipe to the page 3 and then yes, there is still one particular small issue. Let me also see. It says which writes parent data, it has to have flex parent data. So I'll put over here the flex factor to be 1. And what you notice is the widget tree not screaming at all for help, and it works perfectly fine. The very last point which I want to do is this entire part. Now I'll wrap it in a column. Well, why so? Just look at this rupees 5,000. It's on the extreme right corner, correct? So I'll have this in the align at bottom right, wherein I'll see that I need to show my current product dot price. Because it's an integer, I'll need a double quotes, and then I can surely show this price. Yeah, so what do you notice? This 6,000, 4,000, all of that showing up. What I'll now try and do is put a rupees dot, do a hot reload, and then again, yeah, this has got decent spacing. Well, we have covered a lot of ground. Now you clearly understand how to create a custom list, how to create a simple list, and in fact what goes behind the list view builder. This module comes to a conclusion by this simple creation of our custom list. In the next module, however, we'll try to understand how you can add device hardwares into your camera app. Well, what we're going to talk about is camera, GPS, and everything in details regarding the permission. So stay tuned and keep learning with Hoping Minds.